Trang Nova all the way in Bali.
The stolen.
Oh my goodness, it's Trang Nova. Oh my gosh.
She made it all the way from Bali. It must have been a tiring walk.
Oh my God, this is the best welcome I've had onto any podcast.
Really?
Yeah. I've never had two people like celebrate me joining a Zoom call. I'm excited.
You said you've never? Okay, hold on. Wait a minute. Then we got to get official. Oh my God, it's Trang Nova. He calls Debbie Nova the most muscular car and fastest ever. She's the best ever. And you should get your mind prepared to hear her speak.
Oh, yeah.
It's Trang Nova.
Yeah.
Hello, guys. How are you both?
Doing good. I just had a power nap.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You need one of those sometimes.
Yeah.
I had a power pick up my son from school and a power Zoom today. Is that the same?
Yeah.
Pretty
that
motivating.
works.
Yeah. All right.
Well, I had a power sleep because it's morning here. What time is it? 7 a.m. So I had a power sleep. Does that count?
It totally counts.
Yeah.
It's like a power nap, except much longer.
Yeah, but you know what happened? So here's a little fun story from this morning. So I woke up at just before 4 a.m. Not because the alarm woke me up, but because the whole ground and building was shaking because we had an earthquake this morning.
Oh my.
Dude, are we talking about like earthquake level shaking or what are we talking about here?
Kind of legitimate. So it was 7.1 on the Richter scale. That's pretty decent. I think that's the biggest one that Bali has ever had, if not at least for a very, very long time. So it was legit. I mean, like, not destruction or anything, luckily. So that's great. But it was a bit of an experience.
You should sound a lot more like, what's the word I'm looking for? Terrified? 7.1?
Yeah.
You should sound a lot more terrified. You sound really relaxed. Right?
Yeah, because that was like a few hours ago. So I'm like, you know what? It's fine. I'm still alive. But at the time when I sleep naked, right? So I was like, I regret sleeping naked tonight because now I have to get up, throw on some clothes and like run out the door because, earthquake protocol. So yeah.
But you have your Catwoman suit so that way you can easily put it back on, get out. No one has to okay, that's pretty awkward. You're out here with no clothes on. No, Catwoman suit.
Yes, exactly.
All right.
So
yeah, go ahead, Ken.
Bali. Is it like what is the temperature like in Bali right now? Like, because I'm in Redlands, California. That's for those who are not really familiar with California. Palm Springs, I can mention that word.
Okay.
And it's not like 120 or anything, but it's hot. It's hot as hell. So what's Bali look like right now?
Yeah, Bali's pretty consistent. So we're in Celsius, so someone's got to do the conversions. But if you open up the weather app, it's pretty much 29, 29, 30, 30, 30, 30, 30 every single day. Sunny every single day. Very consistent. Very lovely.
Ooh, I love consistency.
Yeah, me too.
Love it.
Yeah, right. And I'm from Melbourne, Australia, where, we're known to have 4 seasons in one day. So it's so nice to not have to check the weather app just to know whether I need to bring an umbrella, plus a jacket, plus, I don't know, raincoat. I just know what it's going to be like every day here. It's the same.
Super consistency. California,
yeah, great.
Same thing over here.
Yeah. So you ready to do this, guys? Ready to do the show?
Yeah, ready to go.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we're on the time thing here because I know you probably might have other plans afterwards, and I just want to just speed through this a little bit, but at the same time have some fun too. So
yeah, already having fun.
You're listening to the 2400 Block Podcast with Jonnyroobs.
Hey, John Lou Diamond Phillips here, LDP in the house. How you doing, brother?
Hello to everyone checking out this episode of the 2400 Block Podcast on Zoom. I'm Jonnyroobs, and next to me is my wingman, Ken, aka Cerebral Cornchex, and we are delighted in having a special guest joining us here today, the one and only Trang Nova. Now let's give her a major round of applause, if you may. And cheers to Trang for making us a part of her morning. Now, I just noticed the most coolest thing here, guys. We're all in different time zones and we're all making it work seamlessly. So thanks to you both on joining me here. So we're going to have quite the show today as we'll be homing in on one of Trang's topics that Cornchex here personally chose, which is how I overcame my quarter-life crisis to create my dream life. Now, before we proceed, let's take the first few minutes of this program in getting to know Trang Nova herself. Yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself, Trang.
Hello, and thank you so much for having me on the show.
You're welcome.
I'm very excited to be here and to spend the next hour or so with you. So, a little bit about myself. Where do I even start? So I'm Trang Nova, as already introduced. I am a mentor, I'm a speaker for those who are hungry to pivot and to build their dream businesses of impact. Now, this isn't what I've always done. I went through, as we will talk about over the next little while, I did go through a quarter life crisis where I changed careers, I started this business and just completely did a 180 with my life, it felt like. But yeah, like I'm so happy with what I'm doing now. Like I feel like I am serving my heart's mission. And in addition to having this drive and doing this for my work, I'm also like a fur mom. I'm also a traveler. I'm an adventurer. I wear a lot of different hats, you could say. And I love to just experience and get a taste of everything. That's who I am. That's my personality.
Cool. And it's good to know, too, that you are part of the podcasting community in which your show, the Aligned Performance Podcast, has over 15,000 listeners. So what are some of the topics you've covered so far on your show?
There are quite a few. I like to speak in quite a comprehensive way in that I like to cover a lot of different topics because I really do believe that when we transform as at the core of who we are, then that is going to trickle into every area of our life. So I speak about uncovering our heart's purpose so that we can achieve success that is meaningful and fulfilling. I speak about how to overcome imposter syndrome and develop deep-rooted confidence in who we are and what we do. I speak on changing careers, strategies to start and build a business, living authentically for a free life. Those are just a few of the different topics.
Great. And I encourage our viewers and listeners to check out her podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and other streaming platforms that carry podcast programming. Now, Trang, what was it like growing up?
As you may be able to tell, my name, Trang, is a Vietnamese name. Yet I have the most Australian accent that anyone could have. So I am the daughter of immigrant parents. I was born and raised in Melbourne, Australia. And because of that, it was a very diverse childhood. I got to have the experience of and the privilege of living in Australia. And at the same time, I got to have the traditions of Vietnamese culture in my life as well. So what that looked like is, because my parents came from like poverty and they came from, war back during the Civil War in the 70s in Vietnam, it was really important for them to give me a life of stability and success. Like they really wanted to offer that to me and my sister. So there was a strong focus on academia. There was a strong focus on developing different skills and knowledge. So yeah, like I went to school, I did tutoring after school. I learned a music instrument, of course, did sports, and I got to experience a whole lot of different things.
Of course.
Of course. And guess which instrument it was? The piano.
I was going to say the violin, but I mean, that would be the second one, right?
Oh, yeah. Top two, violin and piano for sure. So, yeah, like I got to experience all of that. And it was, I'm so grateful that I got to experience all of that. At the same time, there was a strong narrative, and my parents, this is what they this is what they believed. This is the best that they kind of thought at the time. The narrative was, you've got to study hard, you've got to work hard, get one job that will keep you secure and keep a roof over your head for the rest of your life. And that was the narrative growing up. So that's something that I'm sure we'll talk about when I went through the quarter life crisis.
Great. Ken, would you like to elaborate?
Yeah, sure. So, like I said, that was a big narrative growing up, and I think it's not just me, but it is the case for so many others as well. Like, think about such a common question that adults ask kids. It's like, what do you want to do when you grow up? And it's implicitly implied that, there's going to be one career that we're going to be married to for the rest of our life. And that's the one. So then because of that, I went for a job that I thought was going to be secure, stable, that was going to be abundant in terms of finances. So that was physiotherapy. And in America, that's called physical therapy. And that's what I knew because my dad was a doctor. My sister was a dentist. So health was a big thing in my family. That's what we kind of knew. So I went for physiotherapy because it wasn't quite like a doctor or like a dentist where it was like super clinical. It was still kind of like cool, it was still kind of cool. I could work with like athletes. I could work with sports. So I went straight from school to uni, graduated with my master's of physiotherapy, and then started working. And I was generally comfortable and happy at the time until one particular morning in my mid-20s that kicked off this quarter life crisis. And that particular morning, are we ready to get into it now? Are we going there?
Oh, we're about to, but it just turned out he just disappeared. You notice that Ken's not here anymore?
I did notice. Should we wait for him to join us again? Yeah,
he said the tablet got overheated. Give me a second to come back on. So we'll just wait for him. And this happens, guys, even on live. So even when we're hit recording, this is what happens sometimes. Technical issues, that is. So
yeah. That's out of our control. So we can just go with the flow. Yes,
indeed. Yeah. So no more earthquake, right? No aftershocks going on right now. It's
not
quieted
for
down
now. Not for now. But what's kind of concerning is, Bali or Indonesia is a country with many different islands and many different volcanoes. And in 2 weeks, I was actually going to climb one of the active volcanoes here in Bali, the tallest peak in Bali. And I'm thinking, is it a good idea to be climbing an active volcano when when there's just been a big earthquake? I mean, I don't know the whole science of it too well, but it just doesn't. It seems like a little bit of an adventure. Bit of a risky adventure, but I did say I'm an adventurer. I do love to be close to death. It makes me feel more alive.
Hey, at least you're making life adventurous, making the most of it. Even, daring yourself, taking risks. Yeah, that's what, life is all about. Some people, they just don't do anything. Some of them are people just mutter and complain, but they don't, make the most out of their life. It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I think everyone has different values and they enjoy different things. So not everyone necessarily has to be riding motorbikes and climbing volcanoes to enjoy their life. But if you do look up to other people who do those types of things, then that can be a sign of what you might want more of for yourself. So yeah, what's something adventurous that you have done this year, Johnny?
Well. Let's just say I did it this afternoon. There's been so much going on in the city of Chicago. I don't know if you've been watching the news a whole lot, but criminal activity has spiked. And I was in one of the areas in Chicago where it's really going up. And with the new mayor, he's not really doing anything. Sorry to put all of Chicago down saying that, but it's true. It's what's happening, and anyone could get robbed or carjacked at any moment. And I was very, very careful. Oh, by the way, he's coming back. So here we go. Yeah.
By the way, like
I have to really watch myself.
Yeah, that's a full thing. Like that will definitely get your heart rate up.
Oh, definitely.
Get into your nervous system.
I think the one event that really got me panicking was when I was in the middle of a looting back in 2020 when they had the George Floyd protests.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They were looting businesses, and I was like at a stoplight. They were all running back and forth, and I don't know if I was going to get, carjacked at that time. Very scary moment. Yeah.
Yeah, I can only imagine that, coming from Melbourne, Australia, like it's very quiet, I think, relative to over there in the States. So
yeah. By the way, speaking of Australia, I do have a wonderful shirt on, In Excess. Great rock band over there in Australia back in its day, Yeah.
I love it. Repping.
Welcome back, Ken.
I said, oh man, he's brown nosing. I didn't have my In Excess shirt.
Well, since you disappeared for the last few minutes, me and her were talking. You'll probably see the rest of it on the podcast, but I shall now pass the mic over to you so you can, discuss deeply with the topic how I overcame my quarter life crisis to create my dream life. Go ahead, Ken.
It's funny. I now, just so you guys know, if you ever do a podcast with your iPad in the sun, even if it is a shade, that doesn't mean it's not going to overheat. Thanks, Apple. I didn't know that. So just tip for everybody. Yeah. And I chimed in, I heard you guys talking about it, seeing it pretty serious because of the fact that George Floyd, and funny enough, my middle name is Floyd. It hit home because it was a very pivotal time, as if there wasn't a bunch of pivotal times in the States regarding police brutality and all that. But I guess it was pivotal because it made more sense for everybody to start looking at things around us. So I think one of the more important reasons why I want to talk about the midlife crisis is because there's always a crisis going on, right? Like we're always like in a position to want to do something, but don't feel like we're either able, or if we are able, we stop, So when I looked at the term crisis, and then we look at this term quarter life crisis. Now I'm 46, right? So quarter life crisis, as I understand it, is, that crisis where not sure what's happening between, not necessarily not what's happening, that your direction is a little veered. So what exactly, how do you quantify quarter life crisis in your term, or what does it mean for you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's funny because I didn't really have a conceptualization of a quarter life crisis until I was already experiencing it. So for me at the time, what it felt like was this confusion and this feeling of being torn, that I was at crossroads in my path, and I could either take path A or path B. But I didn't know what to do because there was so many mixed signals, so many mixed ideas in my mind because of what happens, like I had grown up my entire life with a certain narrative, the narrative that my parents had given me from society, from media. And I had a very set understanding of myself and the world. And I think this is the case for many people. You grow up and you're in almost like an echo chamber. You're in a little bit of a bubble almost for your childhood. And then what happens is you finish school, you go out into the world, you go to university, maybe move to a bigger city, maybe make more friends, and you get exposed to just so much more out there in the world, right? And, you start working, and then you start to get new ideas and new learnings and new perspectives about yourself in the world. So then you're starting to integrate these two worlds, and that's oversimplifying. It's not just two worlds, but you're really integrating just all these mixed ideas and understandings, and then it creates this overwhelm and confusion, because it's like, oh my God, I thought this is who I was. I thought this is the path I was going to go down for the rest of my life. But wait, with this new information about the world and myself, now that I'm just expanding exposure to life and the world, maybe that's not what it's going to be. Maybe there's actually something else out there for me. Maybe there's something else that I need to become and to do. And then it creates this, just this crisis, you could say. Or another way of looking at it is not a crisis, but actually an awakening. Like it's actually a positive experience. It doesn't feel like it at the time. Yeah, right. Like it doesn't necessarily feel like it at the time because it's very confusing and it's quite emotionally heavy. But on the flip side of that is there is an opportunity there for us to learn so much more about ourselves, to step into a more evolved, a more aligned and true version of who we're becoming and where we are going in our life. And that is how I see it now on the other side. Like I am so glad that I had this quarter life crisis / awakening, because without it, I wouldn't be living my own dream life and showing up as the highest, most conscious version of myself.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned, you didn't say enlightenment per se, but it is, I believe there's a few people that, not few, but there's people that this happens where they have this paradigm, now we're talking science terms, and that paradigm is stuck because that was the microsystem that we were born in. These are the things that are retold, and then that shift happens. Some people don't actually have a paradigm shift. Others just go, I'm afraid. So fear is what stops the paradigm shift. In your case, there's questions that precede fear, where it allows that fear to take a back seat. So what was that turning point where you're like, wait a minute, this is what my parents said, this is what my community said, but now that I'm here in uni or wherever you were where you had that snafu, what was that change where you said, you know what, that's not the direction I want to go. That doesn't make me feel happy, because happiness is the barometer, right?
Yeah. And this is getting into that one morning that I was alluding to before you dropped out, Ken. Like I said, I was working as a physiotherapist. I was generally comfortable, generally happy, generally doing well, until one particular morning where something happens that changed the course of the rest of my life. And what happened was I had gotten up to go for a run, and when I stepped out onto the sidewalk to begin my run, I hear a crunch.
I don't mean to interrupt. You said, what was you said a therapist?
Physiotherapist. Yeah. So physical therapist. Physical therapist in the States, physiotherapist in Australia.
I like physio.
Yeah. So that was my first career. That's what I graduated. That was my degree coming out of uni. So that's what I was working as for the first, I think, 4 or so years. Until, this morning where I gotten up to go for a run, stepped out onto the sidewalk, and I hear a crunch. And I'm like, what's that? What's going on? I look down, and turns out I'd stepped on a snail. Now, this isn't the first time that I stepped on a snail before, and I'm sure that many of you have done the same, right? But for some reason, on this morning, I couldn't stop thinking about the fact that I had stepped on the snail. And by me living my own life, doing my own thing, I'd caused such an effect on something outside of me. Like in this case, I had killed something. And this really got me thinking over the remainder of the run. I just couldn't shake these thoughts. This continued for the months that followed. And I started to see the bigger picture that I, as one individual person, actually have a very big footprint. Like the decisions that I make, every single thing that I do has the potential to create a ripple effect and change things that are outside of me and beyond me that I might never even witnessed or never even observed during my lifetime. Like, this is how
You're giving
high
me chill bumps
level
right
I
now.
went. Yeah. And it all started with this one snail, right? Like, completely whack. But yeah, that's where my line of thinking went. So then I started to see how much of an impact I could have. At the same time, though, I had this, contrasting thought that, I still felt very helpless, very insignificant, because I'm just one person. Like, I can see how the decisions that I make can contribute to worldwide problems and worldwide challenges that people face. But I'm still just one person. How can I ever make that much of a difference in my lifetime? So this was the crisis. I was just like, I want to do more with my life, and I feel like I can, but at the same time, I'm just one person. I can never make that much of a difference. So then this line of thinking started to reflect back to me. And what I was doing at the time was I was going into work, as a physiotherapist, and I might be teaching someone how to do this as a wrist exercise for their forearm muscles, right? That's like what I would be doing during my day.
Well, it wasn't motorbike. It wasn't
like not quite. But like wrist exercises or just like back exercises for their pain, which is, going to make the world of difference for that person for that pain. However, I was looking out there and I was like, I feel like I could be doing even more. I feel like I could use my lifetime to create greater ripples that will affect all of humanity, ecosystems, like the actual planet. Like, I want to be getting to that level of impact. So then that's where the crisis started to really deepen, because that started to affect my identity. I was like, I'm a physiotherapist, and I also teach people how to train in the gym. So I'm showing them how to squat, how to, do some bicep curls. But it's like, is this it for the rest of my life? Is this all it's going to be?
You are more.
No, it's phenomenal. I didn't mean to interrupt you, because I would think, forgive me and listeners or you, if you going to physical therapy or physiotherapy is the Super Bowl for, after going to school. That's it. So to actually think of to push that envelope further is a very unique, phenomenal thing. And the way you break it down is amazing. So go ahead.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Ken. And, this was all completely organic, you could say, right? Like, no one was prompting this. This was just my own line of thinking as a result of stepping on that snail that one morning. So I was just really confused, because part of me wanted to do more and knew I could do more, but also there was all the fear and, my attachments to who I had become, which was a physiotherapist, and I was good at it. Like, I'd been hired to do international talks. That was my reputation of that is what I do and that's what I'm good at. People respected me for it. So there was this clash, and, I felt like I was getting pulled in different directions. So I just remember feeling super confused, and I asked my business mentor at the time, because I was also kind of like starting my own, physiotherapy business. So I had a business mentor, and he was also a life coach as well. And I asked him, what should I do? Should I go out there and change what I'm doing and maybe do more activism, maybe do more volunteering to have more of an impact? And then what he said, I remember, was so profound. He said, Trang, you want to make a difference, right? Well, what if you don't have to go on the front lines to make a difference? Like, what if you could also take a step back and look at the big picture? For example, imagine you were in the times of war. Could you make a difference by becoming a doctor and working in the hospitals and helping the injured soldiers? Or could you also make a difference by taking a step back away from the front lines and away from the action and becoming the person who tries to end the war? And my mind was... my mind was blown here because this whole time I thought that I needed to be like on the front lines, right? Like addressing the actual problem. But then there were other ways to make a difference as well, like going to the root cause of the problem and not even necessarily dealing with the symptoms of the problem.
Yeah, that's very phenomenal. And the reality is, if you're on the front line, and this is just my perspective, you're actually distracted more than someone who is kind of like in the background, actually seeing the bigger picture better than the person on the front line. So, and that's typically what a business, person is, a person who found something, or they have, because I'm a visionary as well. So
yeah,
I can see how, and most people are going to laugh when I say this. You stepped on a snail. Snafu! Oh my God. What did I just do? And boom, it leads to there. Because here's the thing. It's going to take that one thing, because you mentioned the word consciousness, and I have a reason why I'm saying this. That one thing is like a pebble in the pond to open up what was already there. Because everything that we are and ever will be is already there. Was the question for your purpose to actually open up. It was that snail. So if we're looking at the grand scheme of things, everything is consciousness, right? So for you, that moment opened up all of that, going up to talking to your business coach. So with that said, and I go to school for consciousness. So if you're talking about, go to school for Ayurvedic wellness, what is the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning from a conscious perspective, like to get from where you were at that point and transitioning into where you are now? What does your days look like every day when you wake up with that new yearn and what I call raising the vibration of the planet?
Yes, I love that. That's how I see it as well. The key that I've really shifted in my rituals is creating space. And what I mean by space is time, is mental space, emotional space, so that I can be in tune and intimate with myself. So in the mornings, what I do when I wake up is, before I open up my phone to open up social media and scroll or check emails or turn on the TV or the radio or anything like that, I simply take 5 to 10 minutes to do some breath work and to do some like meditations of different sorts. It might be a visualization meditation where I visualize my mission, right? Which is to, in simple words, kind of like what you said, raise the frequency of the planet. How I see it is like, like raising the levels of consciousness of humanity, so that by doing that, people can thrive in their lives. People can live their dream life. People can have an incredible lifetime, but also then have capacity to spread their impact and their purpose. And then when enough people are thriving, then humanity as a collective will thrive. And when humanity thrives, then the world will thrive for us all and for future generations. So that is my mission. And that is what I connect back to each morning. That gets me out of bed. That gives me meaning and purpose to live my days. And I also then look at other things as well. Like I look at my values, I check in with my core values, and I ask myself with complete honesty, am I living in alignment to those values? Like over the last day, over the last week, in what ways did I embody those values versus in what ways did I actually act out of alignment with those values? So those are just a couple of examples.
Wow. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. You actually, what's funny? This podcast is so amazing for me because everything you're saying is literally where I'm at, and literally I'm in that transitionary period too. And trucking has been the thing that I've been doing because I said, you know what? If I'm going to be the best dad or whatever, I got to have the best income. And as a truck driver, the main thing we do before we start our day is pre-trip. Pre-trips involves all the different things that come with the safety of a truck carrying 80,000 pounds. right? So if you don't do this pre-trip and you knew you could have caught a tire that blew, that created an accident, that ripple effect, right? And going back on what you said about that positive, every decision, this is a very, very pivotal thing you said. And I read it actually in Csikszentmihalyi's book. Forgive me if I don't remember the title, but it talked about the evolutionary impact of things that we do now. So basically, 1,000 years from now, something that you did today, the decision you made will affect somebody 1,000 years from now. So I came up with my own term. It's called positive evolutionary impact. But
I love that.
Because it's like, right, you think about it. If you don't get outside of your outer experience, have that Snell moment, you won't be able to go, wait a minute, is this purchase that I'm making here at, I'm not going to plug any particular brand, Coca-Cola. It's the easy one. Is this process of getting this drink worth what is going to happen? And that's a very huge thing. But with the trucking thing, pre-tripping, what do you like besides the meditation? Because I do the same thing. Or actually, let me go back. There was a question I was going to ask you. Did you do those things before you had this enlightenment, the breath work, the meditation and of sorts?
No, I didn't. And that's not what was, as in, sorry, before the quarter life crisis. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, because and I was on a train with a pre-trip, but I went back because I wanted to ask you a question about that.
Yeah.
If you're a physiotherapist and you had your own successful routine there, when you had this Snell moment, I'm going to call it, you implement new things to your routine for this new journey that you're on, fulfill your purpose.
Yes.
Those weren't the same as your routine back then.
Correct. I did have routines back then, and I was a high achiever back then. You kind of have to be if you're going to, I guess, finish a master's and go into physiotherapy. But those routines at the time were very heavily revolved around the physical and the mental. And what I mean by that is revolved around my health. So gym and exercise and studying and reading and just increasing my mental capacity. And that's what it was revolved around. But after this quarter life crisis was when I started to develop more emotionally and spiritually. So those other dimensions. So then I could start to bring in these different practices that will allow me to still have success because I'm working hard and I'm showing up in this world, but I'm actually aligning it to a greater purpose, a greater meaning, and more intention to who I want to be, not just what I do.
What you do. And that's, and again, that's great. I'm probably not going to hit too much on the pre-trip part, but I think that's important because we all, I believe, and again, I won't be able to speak for the whole world because different, cultures have different ways of looking at things. But for the most part, in all my understanding, we're shown these are things that we got to do, and that's what matters. But when you have that spiritual connection to the actual physiological or the matter, then you begin to look at the energy aspect of ourselves, and you're going, wait a minute, that wasn't even being tapped into. So you are now in this place where you're getting a chance to really take on the full brunt of yourself. When exactly did this crisis happen in relation to where we are at right now?
That was, I have to really think now. That was in 2019, so just before COVID hit. So 4 years ago now. I was 24 years old, and then now I'm 28 years old, giving away my age.
And you didn't have to, but your honesty is always appreciated because at the end of the day, we're in a servitude business, right? So
I'm an open book.
Yeah, and I too. And I'm actually very flabbergasted because I literally feel like I'm talking to myself here because everything down to the notch has been literally my turnaround point for asking questions so many times over and over. Came 2019. It's about the same thing as but for me, it wasn't snail, it was the word mindful. And it took on a whole nother thing, which that's another show, and it's not about me. But given that you're in the human servitude business, which I think we all should be, but in this case, it's very purpose-filled. Do you find self-care and self-love a little harder? Because, now as you get into that place where you're recognizing more, more attention's you're getting pulled in different directions. Does it become harder?
Yeah, that's a great question, because that can be the case, can't it? Parents or people who are serving others are more inclined and can become inclined to put others ahead of them. For me, I've actually always really prioritized my own care. In that, I haven't actually mentioned this, but when I was working as a physiotherapist, I was also working as a personal trainer. So, for example, exercise has always been a big part of my life. Health. So that includes sleeping and eating well. All those things has always been a big role in my day-to-day routines. And even since then, I've actually developed this perspective that may be controversial, in that it's not the usual perception of what self-care is. So self-care to me isn't just, face masks and getting massages and things like that. And of course, that is very lovely. I got a massage last week. It was beautiful.
In my therapy sessions, it technically is the most simplest thing, like brush your teeth. Oh my God, that is success for the day. I brushed my teeth. But no, you're on another level. So.
Yeah, all those things, it's not just that, but all that is very lovely as well. And it does give us that little kick, right? When you can run your tongue along your teeth and it's all smooth. Oh, beautiful. To me, what self-care is also about is about developing long-term self-worth and self-respect. Because we can do like the massages, we can do the face masks, but if deep down on an ongoing basis we are lacking true self-respect and self-worth, then we're not actually caring for ourselves. And how do we develop self-worth and self-respect? Well, just look at other people who we respect and who we look up to. Why do we look up to them? Maybe because they look after themselves. Maybe because they follow through with what they say they do. Maybe because they exhibit traits of discipline and, hard work, and they do hard things that we would like to do ourselves. So to me, self-care actually encapsulates discipline, hard work, like doing hard things, doing new things that challenge us to continually grow. So for example, last year, I started having cold showers. And that to me was self-care, in that I was doing something a little bit hard every day, and it raised my own sense of self. It went into a deeper level of self-respect that ultimately is the highest form of self-care. Is if we can create a practice that allows us to respect ourselves and to love ourselves, then is that not the highest form of self-care?
The heart part, yes. I'll be honest with you. I'm a military guy, Navy. And all I know from Navy till now is keeping it pushing hard. Hard to me is the most funnest part of life, how hard things can be. And but I realized the self-love part far missing, because when you get in the military and they're telling you mission first, your shipmate first, and all these other people first, then, because you just mentioned the highest form of self-care, a lot of people don't even know what self-care is in general. So where is your what is Trang Nova conscious? What does consciousness look like from your perspective now that you kind of changed it, where it's not just I'm a physiotherapist and I go and I speak and I do things, I do them hard, and if you superseded that, what is your mindset from a consciousness perspective looking forward?
Yeah. And before I even answer that, like, thank you for sharing that, Ken. I think that's actually a really great perspective, because I was saying that, doing the hard things and having discipline, to me, leads to self-respect, but maybe not always, right? Because self-respect, self-love is multidimensional. It's never just going to be one thing. And if you tick that off, then yep, you've got this. It's multidimensional. There are other aspects as well. Like, we've got to be doing it from a place of, we want to nurture ourselves and love ourselves more, rather than punishing ourselves, because that can be a motivation for someone to do hard things as well, that they hate themselves, so they want to punish themselves. They don't deserve pleasure in life. So we've got to have the polarity of both, of, like, doing the hard things, doing the discipline, but also enjoying the pleasures of life as well. And like I said at the start, I'm big on that. I love to do everything. I love to, travel and go scuba diving and ride my motorbike really fast down the highway, but also, do some of the hard things. So now, to answer your question.
Okay, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Were you going to say something, Ken?
No, I was actually just salivating on what you said, because most people, and I say most people because I'm really generalizing when I say that, because that's all I've known, is that hard work is associated with success. Hard work. So what do you mean that's not it? And some people say differently. But I was just really connecting on when we expounded upon it. But go ahead and answer the question.
Okay, you know what? Can I be a pain, because I've now diverted the conversation?
No. I love
question.
I love, and just so you know, just for our audience and everybody that'll ever hear from me, and maybe you will say the same, I have ADHD, so off tracking is a lot easier, so I don't mind it. So go ahead.
Cool. And then what I was going to say was, because I did divert the conversation, I've kind of now forgotten the exact question. So are you able to repeat it?
No. So what I was asking was, with that mindset comes, I guess, a higher self. So, who are you from a consciousness perspective? Now that it's not just your outer experience, and what matters is my biggest achievement in, physiotherapy. Like, what is your consciousness perspective now?
Consciousness perspective. It's interesting. Like, you go down this rabbit hole, and it just can never, like, it can go, just keep going, right? Like, it can reach like no end. For me, like, at the deepest level, I see myself as like this inherent part of this universe. So the fact that I'm here as a human being, but even if I'm not a human being, the fact that I'm part of this universe means that I'm meant to be here. Because this whole universe, in my own theory, how I understand it, is that it started with the Big Bang. And this Big Bang started from nothing. But then from there, everything differentiated into, trees and rocks and dogs and humans. And we all were differentiated, but we are all still part of this universe. Like, we are actually all here as one, in that we all started from the same source, but we just got differentiated into different things. So the fact that we are here is actually a big deal. Like, we are the universe. Like, we are part of this universe. We are part of this world. And I know this might seem a little bit woo-woo, a little bit airy-fairy, but I'm just telling you, this is where my mind went during a one-day meditation that I did last year. It was like a 24 hours of silence. So yeah, you can imagine your mind just goes to these places. Because I think I was just sitting on some grass, and I was like picking at some blades of grass, and I was like, yeah, like, we're all here as one, like, we are all one big family. And what that means is that we belong. And I know a lot of people have challenges with their self-worth and feeling like they don't belong. And I've had that before as well. So having this realization made me see and recognize that I belong. And my consciousness is just the fact that I'm part of this universe. Like, I'm a human here living this life, but I am inherently like one with the universe, and however you want to kind of call that. So I am inherently worthy. I inherently belong. I am special. I have a place here. And that to me is kind of like where the consciousness goes. It's like, this is how I perceive my existence now. I hope that answers your question.
You could not have I asked that question, and most times I ask a question like that, I usually don't want to blow anybody out because they're thinking, oh, okay, that's a deep question to ask. But you answered that so profound that really answers a lot of mental health issues, frankly, because a lot of people go into their days wanting to do the positive mental attitude thing, wanting to watch the guru tell them about business, wanting to do all these things, but where they are at emotionally, they don't feel they belong because of so many rejections. So that'll segue into, I had more questions, but that was so profound. I'm just going to skip to this one. Does your personal mental health optimization carry more importance over your social economic presence? Meaning, like, the way you see yourself and how you carry yourself out in your positive vibration matters more than how that's playing out according to someone else's perspective. Meaning, I guess she's doing this, but I think she should be doing this, and especially you being in business. I think mental health, and I know we're really getting on that, is an important part of it mattering to you before it matters to anyone, especially when you're going into business. So what is your take on that?
Yeah. In the sequence of what creates what and what is the underlying foundation, yes. In that, like, I really do believe that our external reality, so our financial situation, our business success, like the health of our relationships, our external world, I believe is very much a reflection of our internal world, a delayed reflection of our internal world, meaning how we think, what we feel, the thoughts and images that go through our mind. That is what reflects externally into our world, into our life. So in the sequence of looking after my own mental health and my own internal world, that is the most important thing. That's got to come first and foremost, because how am I going to sustain or even build a business that is thriving and abundant and having an impact if my internal world is rocky and is turbulent? Like, I might be able to over short periods of time if I like really grind and hustle, but will I be able to sustain it? And I believe that our business in particular, as an example, it can never outgrow us. Like, it will always eventually fall back down to the level of our average thinking and doing day after day, week after week. So in terms of the sequence, it is the most important thing. In terms of like time and actually looking at physical time and how we divide it up, like, it's not like I'm doing meditations 8 hours a day and only working 1 hour a day. Like, I'm still kind of like showing up and embodying for the majority of the hours of the day, but it's got to be preceded by the foundation of me starting my day, like I said before, with intention and consciousness.
That is beautiful, and that's a beautiful place to end, because at the end of the day, everyone starts their day in this unreasonable amount of goals. But if you don't know yourself first before you start your day, you're just among it. And you're right. If you have great intentions, if you set an intention, not great intentions, set an intention and have something you're grateful for, it's a really good start to the day. And with that said, I'll pass it back to John so we can wrap this wonderful, mind-blowing session with Trang.
The good thing about Trang is, I know she's doing this thing as a business, but what I like about her is that she's being so true to herself. Everything is real. Everything she embodies is real. Especially being one with the universe. That was just mind blowing. That's like eye opening to me. And just hearing you both just, so much to learn from. And I'm going to have to play this one again right after we wrap this up. But wow, you two. So, cheers to you both.
Cheers. Thank you.
I'm going to drink my cold water here.
I've got my 1.5 liter bottle of water because
It's usually
hydration, guys,
right next
health.
to me.
By the way, Trang,
you know what the funny thing is?
go ahead, Ken.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
No, I said I asked those questions specifically because we're in a realm where everybody talks a big game about success, but the deeper roots of success is what you just talked about today. And I'm really thankful that you were able to expand on it in the way you did. So that's thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for opening up the space and asking the questions to prompt where this conversation went. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. By the way, if you don't mind me asking, where did you meditate or the quiet thing for 24 hours? Where did you go? You said you were in a field or something, or?
Yeah, so that was actually at a retreat that I attended.
Okay.
So that, it was specifically designed to create the most immaculate environment for something like that. We were in this beautiful property on top of a mountain in Queensland, Australia, and it was overlooking a valley and the mountains on the other side of the valley. So it was just the perfect place to be on this like sunny winter's day to have 24 hours of silence where we had access to the whole property so we could move around. Like we didn't have to stay in like a seated meditation the whole time. But to be able to see like so far into the horizon and to connect to nature, connect back to ourselves and to really open up space for these thoughts. That it was such an interesting experience because we didn't know that we were going to have this 24 hours of silence going into the retreat. And then when it was revealed that was what we were going to be doing, I remember everyone was just like flailing, like trying to find loopholes. It was like, oh, are we allowed to like, read a book? Are we allowed to like write in our journey? Are we allowed to like listen to music? And everyone was trying to find ways to like not be in silence for 24 hours. But at the end of the day, that's what it was. It was pretty much nothing except our own thoughts for 24 hours.
Awesome.
Not even food.
Oh, wow. Not even food?
Oh.
So,
yeah.
Where that was like fasting.
Where could one find this particular retreat or a retreat like it? Because silence is very important. I think one of the questions I was going to ask you was stimuli. I think the stimuli is what pulls us away from who we are. So, yeah, where could one go to a 24-hour silence retreat?
There are quite a few. Like there are a lot of like meditation retreats that you can go to, and they're available all over the world. The one that I went to in particular was actually with my business and life coach, who I mentioned earlier at the start, who I like spoke to during my quarter life crisis. He's actually not running that particular retreat anymore. But shout out to him. His name is Tom Clark, and he is Impact Nation on social media. But yeah, like there are so many different retreats. Like I run my own retreats as well, and there are elements of that meditation and the reflection and things like that. But yeah, just so many. So what I'd recommend is finding a company or finding an individual who you really resonate with. And that may be me or that may not be, and that's totally okay. But someone who you really feel connected to, that when you're there, it'll just create this perfect space for you to open up to your mind, to your heart, to your soul. So that's what I'd recommend.
Well, you're a super humble person. There's two big things that you skipped over like it was nothing. One, you have your own retreat. So if you can just let everyone know what that may be, just in case we decide, you're the best one. Well, how would we be able to attend your retreat?
For sure. So I run 2 retreats a year, and it's actually part of a bigger mastermind. It's actually part of a 6-month mastermind for women only. So sorry to you too. It's actually women only, this retreat, because this group is for women who are like on their journey of starting their businesses, attending this retreat, having this space together. One-on-one, for my one-on-one mentoring, I do work with anyone. I don't believe in like being exclusive in that way. It's just for the retreats, like the space that we create. It's this beautiful space for these women. And like they're 4 days long, and it's like this celebration, it's learning, it's embodiment, it's doing challenging things. Like, for example, the next one is in October, and we are going on the second last day of the retreat. We are going skydiving because
we do my Oprah
challenge.
Skydiving. We're going skydiving.
Yeah.
I'm doing that, by the way, but I just need to do my Oprah on that one.
Yes. So yeah, mental physical challenge. Like, it's not a boot camp. It's not like anything like that. But it's to combine all the different parts of us so that we can step into our greatest power and create the life of legacy that we have within us. And that's why it's called Life of Legacy.
The last one, did you skip, Bass? And this will end our podcast, unfortunately. You sleep in the nude. Is that... you didn't think I was... there's no way you're not going to just say that like it was no big deal. Is that like, just a personal thing you've always done? Or was that part of this coming into understanding who you are? And it's a freedom. That's what I'm really trying to get at.
That's so funny. I love that.
Besides the
it's just so funny that like within a 1 hour conversation that has somehow come up, but it's come up. So it's here. I haven't always done that. Definitely used to sleep in pajamas growing up, but then I just remember, I think once when I was a teenager on a hot summer day, I just stripped off and noticed how liberating it felt and how good it felt to not be confined in clothes, especially in bed, when I guess it's probably one of the very few times of our day where we can just wear whatever we want. So after that night, I've pretty much slept in the nude ever since. I would highly recommend. Would highly recommend.
It's it's funny you say that. I don't know what point in time it was for me, but it was the same thing for me. It was like this, I don't have to do this type thing. And every once in a while, I think I don't probably do it for the same reasons why I didn't do it before that. But it's very liberating because, like I don't wear sunglasses or I don't wear jewelry because it's not natural. So that was definitely another sense of freedom. So I appreciate you sharing that. You didn't have to.
I did volunteer that information at the start, so I'm open to it.
Well, we appreciate you.
Yeah, for me, I didn't went into nude. No. So.
No.
No.
Maybe
tonight. Who knows? You may never know.
Tonight.
Yeah.
Trang, get him tonight. He's doing it tonight. He's doing it tonight. Hey. We'll all sing that for you, buddy.
We're going to do hard things, right? If we want to like grow our self-respect.
Yeah.
So maybe that hard thing is sleeping in the nude.
Please, very good.
By the way, Trang, me and Ken, we've been friends now for about maybe 26, 27 years now. So
yeah, wow.
Yeah, this friendship has...
I'd love to know how that friendship first blossomed. Like, what was the setting? Like, that's beautiful.
Well, I found him in a Bible study group. That's where it began for both of us.
Yeah, when I was in the Navy. Yeah. So we for me, I was in the Navy in Norfolk, Virginia. At that time, you're discovering things. And at that time, I guess I was looking for a sense of purpose and started a Bible group, a Bible study. And then it kind of went into a youth group. And that's where I met John Eric. We share the same birthday in September. Yeah. So we're September 30th Libra, bro.
Yeah.
And what's funny? You're talking the 90s up until now. The likelihood of staying in touch with somebody then is a little harder because there's a lot more work that goes into it. But because he's a creative energy and I've always been, but I just didn't really tap into it, which is why this is a very important podcast for me. He's always been doing the things that, what you're doing. Like, he's always been a part of his creative energy. And I've always admired that. So he was doing the blogging. I was busy being a family guy. He was doing all these different things. I was being a family guy. And that's nothing saying negative about Family Guy. But what you said is really important. If you don't put yourself first, how are you going to show up for anybody else, right? So throughout the time, I just really admired him just following his passion, even if it meant a little bit at a time. And it's because of that reason, while we just kind of, we've been best friends for so long, we just kind of, he did a podcast like 3 or 4 years ago. And, I was like, well, what is that podcast thing like? And boom, now I'm on it, and I'm a creative energy, one and the same. And like, you're right, we're all one unit. Mm-hmm. We just feel like we're separate, but we're really not. We're really all one unit. And what affects me really affects you. And people don't understand that monistic perspective. It's just separatism, and it's really not. If we really pay attention, we're all one. So our friendship is very great. And I love at this point in time, we're sitting up here on a podcast, all these years later.
This is Ken's first podcast, so yeah, this is his first time with me. Yeah, and we're interviewing Trang. This is special, and I'm glad that the universe has brought all of us together for today. That was really cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did not expect that, because that flowed so well. But I think that's a testament to your friendship and the trust that you have between each other, which I've got to say, I want in on this best friendship. I want in on this. I love you guys.
Oh, thank you.
There's a blood thing, so you're going to have to prick your finger like you had diabetes. No, I'm just kidding. He hasn't done that. No, but you're really cool. I actually really find it rare to randomly find people that are into more than just success. And the reason why I say that is because success in this realm is one thing. Success from the inside without any kind of monetary compensation or monetary value means a lot more. So for you to be able to expand on that so deeply and so openly, you're in the best friendship for sure. For sure.
Definitely. I'm in, baby. I love that. And I really appreciate that, because I just looked at the time and I can't even believe it's been already over an hour.
Yeah.
I have done a lot of podcasts before, and oftentimes 1 hour can feel like a long time. If the conversation's being forced or if the questions just aren't that stimulating. But this has really been wonderful. It's just flown by. I can't believe what time it is.
Just like that.
So thank you for that.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Skipped over, just like you skipped over nude. I skipped over that this is my first time.
That is it. I love that. Well done. Kudos.
I do this all the time.
Fantastic.
All right, guys, this is Trang Nova. Once again, she is our guest. Feel free to check out her podcast, the Aligned Performance Podcast, over there, wherever podcasts are heard. So thank you again, Trang, for joining us, for being a part of this wonderful session here that we got going. I haven't been on Zoom in a while, but thank you, Ken, for putting me on Zoom.
Yes, sir. Anytime, brother.
All right, so you guys take care. You have a good night, and actually, for Trang, enjoy your morning.
Thank you very much.
Namaste.
All right.
Namaste.
Take care.